Question 1. Animal welfare and health. A stray dog has been impounded and shows signs of malnutrition and dehydration. As an animal control officer, which of the following steps is the most appropriate first course of action to ensure the animal's welfare? A. Provide food immediately and leave the dog undisturbed to eat at its own pace. B. Conduct full physical examination to identify additional health issues. C. Administer fluids intravenously and monitor the dog in isolation. D. Notify veterinarian and follow their guidance regarding treatment. Answer D. Notify a veterinarian and follow the guidance regarding treatment. Explanation. Option D correct. According to animal welfare guidelines, the first step in dealing with a malnourished or dehydrated animal is to seek veterinary advice to ensure proper treatment and avoid causing further harm. Veterinarians are trained to assess the extent of dehydration and malnutrition and recommend appropriate refeeding protocols. Option was incorrect. While providing food is necessary, allowing the dog to eat unrestrictedly can lead to feeding syndrome, a potentially fatal condition in malnourished animals. Option B incorrect. Conducting a physical examination is essential but should be done under veterinary supervision to avoid exacerbating the animal's condition. Option C incorrect. Administering intravenous fluids is a specialized medical procedure that should only be performed by a licensed veterinarian or trained professional. Relevant guidelines, Veterinary Standards of Care and the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act outline the importance of involving veterinarians in cases of severe neglect or malnutrition. Question 2. Investigation and Enforcement, Scenario-Based MS. Carter reports that her neighbor, Mr. Thompson, has been neglecting his dogs, leaving them without adequate food or water for several days. During your investigation, you observe emaciated dogs in the backyard, one of which appears injured. Mr. Thompson denies any wrongdoing and refuses to cooperate. What should your next steps be? A. Issue a fine to Mr. Thompson and leave the property to avoid further conflict. B. Remove the dogs immediately without further documentation to prevent suffering. C. Document the scene, thoroughly gather evidence, and involve law enforcement if necessary. D. Attempt to mediate the situation by discussing proper care standards with Mr. Thompson. Answer C. Document the scene, thoroughly gather evidence, and involve law enforcement if necessary. Explanation. Option C correct. Proper documentation, including photographs, witness statements, and detailed notes, is essential for building a strong case of neglect. Involving law enforcement is necessary when there is resistance or potential danger, as animal control officers may lack the authority to seize animals without appropriate legal backing. Optional incorrect. Issuing a fine without addressing the welfare of the animals does not resolve the immediate issue of neglect or ensure their safety. Option B incorrect. Removing the dogs without proper documentation or legal authority may lead to legal repercussions and compromise the case against Mr. Thompson. Option D incorrect. Mediation may be an option in minor cases, but in situations involving severe neglect, immediate action is required to protect the animals. Relevant law. The Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act provides legal authority to seize animals in cases of severe neglect, but this must be done following proper legal procedures to ensure the case holds up in court. Question 3. Pest and wildlife management. During a routine patrol, you encounter a colony of bats roosting in an attic of a residential property. The homeowner is concerned about potential health risks and requests immediate removal. What is the most appropriate action under humane wildlife management protocols? A. Seal all entry points immediately to prevent the bats from re-entering. B. Relocate the bats to a nearby forest during the day when they are less active. C. Inform the homeowner that bats are protected and cannot be removed under any circumstances. D. Conduct an exclusion process at the appropriate season to ensure no harm to bats or their young. Answer D. Conduct an exclusion process at the appropriate season to ensure no harm to bats or their young. Explanation. Option D correct. Bats are often protected species, and exclusion is the recommended method to remove them humanely. Exclusion involves sealing entry points after bats have left, typically done during late summer or early fall when young bats are old enough to fly. Option is incorrect. Sealing entry points immediately can trap bats inside, leading to their death and potentially causing additional issues such as odor or disease. Option B incorrect. Relocating bats is not typically permitted and may harm the animals or disrupt ecosystems. Option C incorrect. While bats are often protected, this does not mean they cannot be removed under all circumstances. Proper exclusion methods can be employed while adhering to legal and ethical guidelines, relevant guidelines, wildlife protection laws, such as the U.S. Endangered Species Act and local regulations dictate the humane management of bat colonies and emphasize seasonal exclusion methods to protect breeding populations. Question 4. Shelter and facility operations. You are managing an animal shelter that has recently taken in a large number of stray cats. Resources are limited and the shelter is nearing capacity. What is the most appropriate strategy to ensure the welfare of the animals while maintaining operational standards? A. Increase the intake capacity by housing multiple cats in each enclosure. B. Initiate a community adoption drive and implement temporary foster care programs. C. Euthanize older or less adoptable animals to make space for new arrivals. D. Refuse intake of additional animals until capacity issues are resolved. Answer: B. Initiate a community adoption drive and implement temporary foster care programs. Explanation: Option B correct. Organizing an adoption drive and engaging the community through foster care programs alleviate overcrowding while prioritizing animal welfare. This approach aligns with ethical shelter management practices. Option was incorrect. Housing multiple cats in each enclosure can lead to stress, increased risk of disease, and behavioral problems, compromising the animal's welfare. Option C, incorrect. Euthanasia should be considered only as last resort and in compliance with established guidelines. Immediate euthanasia is not justified in this scenario. Option D, incorrect. Refusing intake might lead to further neglect or abandonment but should be weighed carefully alongside operational capacity, relevant guidelines. Shelter management guidelines emphasize promoting adoption and fostering as humane solutions to overcrowding. Local animal welfare laws may regulate shelter capacity and euthanasia practices. Question 5. Ethical and professional practices. An animal control officer witnesses a colleague using excessive force when capturing a stray dog, resulting in injury to the animal. What is the most appropriate action for the officer to take in this situation? A. Report the incident to a supervisor or relevant authority immediately. B. Confront the colleague and demand an explanation for their actions. C. Ignore the situation as the dog was captured successfully. D. Provide first aid to the animal and file a report later. Answer A. Report the incident to a supervisor or relevant authority immediately. Explanation: Option was correct. Reporting the incident ensures accountability and upholds ethical standards. Supervisors can investigate and implement corrective measures. Option B, incorrect. While confrontation may bring attention to the issue, it does not guarantee a formal investigation or resolution. Option C, incorrect. Ignoring unethical behavior compromises professional integrity and animal welfare. Option D, incorrect. Providing first aid is essential, but delaying the report could hinder a timely investigation. Relevant guidelines. Professional codes of conduct and whistleblower policies require reporting unethical practices to maintain the integrity of animal control operations. Question 6. Emergency response and disaster management. Scenario based: during a flood, Mr. Anderson is forced to evacuate his property, leaving behind several animals, including dogs, cats, and chickens. When you arrive, the water level is rising rapidly and the animals are in distress. What is the most appropriate immediate action? A. Rescue the animals and transport them to the nearest shelter. B. Contact emergency services to coordinate animal rescue efforts. C. Advise Mr. Anderson to return after the flood to retrieve the animals. D. Document the situation and prioritize human safety over animal rescue. Answer B. Contact emergency services to coordinate animal rescue efforts. Explanation: Option B, correct. Coordinating with emergency services ensures a safe and efficient rescue operation for the animals without compromising the safety of responders. Option was incorrect. Attempting to rescue the animals alone may endanger the officer, particularly in hazardous conditions. Option C, incorrect. Advising the owner to return after the flood disregards the immediate danger to the animals. Option D, incorrect. While documenting is important, it should not replace action in an emergency. Relevant guidelines. Disaster response protocols emphasize collaboration with emergency services to ensure the safety of both humans and animals during natural disasters. Question 7. Animal behavior and handling. Which of the following techniques is most effective for handling a fearful and potentially aggressive dog during an animal control operation? A. Approach the dog quickly to minimize stress. B. Use a calm and steady approach while avoiding direct eye contact. C. Shout commands to establish authority. D. Corner the dog to prevent it from escaping. Answer B. Use a calm and steady approach while avoiding direct eye contact. Explanation. Option B. Correct. Fearful dogs may perceive direct eye contact or sudden movements as a threat. A calm approach reduces stress and prevents escalation of aggression. Option was incorrect. Approaching quickly may increase the dog's anxiety and risk of attack. Option C. Incorrect. Shouting can exacerbate fear and lead to defensive aggression. Option D. Incorrect. Cornering the dog leaves it with no escape route, increasing the likelihood of an aggressive response. Relevant guidelines, principles of animal behavior, and psychology recommend non-threatening handling techniques to ensure safety for both the handler and the animal. Question 8. Legislative frameworks and compliance. Under animal control regulations, what is the primary purpose of issuing a notice of compliance to a pet owner? A. To impose fines and penalties for violations. B. To provide a formal warning and outline corrective actions. C. To seize the owner's animals immediately. D. To initiate legal proceedings against the pet owner. Answer B. To provide a formal warning and outline corrective actions. Explanation. Option B. Correct. A notice of compliance informs the owner of violations and specifies corrective measures to avoid further legal action. This approach prioritizes education and voluntary compliance. Option incorrect. Fines and penalties are typically imposed if the owner fails to comply after receiving notice. Option C. Incorrect. Animal seizure occurs only in cases of severe neglect or immediate danger. Option D. Incorrect. Legal proceedings are a last resort when compliance cannot be achieved. Irrelevant guidelines. Local animal control laws prioritize issuing warnings and notices as the first step in addressing non-compliance. Question 9. Pest and wildlife management. What is the most ethical and effective method for managing a population of feral cats in an urban area? A. Capture and euthanize the cats to prevent overpopulation. B. Implement a trap neuter return TNR program. C. Relocate the cats to a rural area. D. Allow the cats to remain and rely on natural population control. Answer B. Implement a trap neuter return TNR program. Explanation. Option B. Correct. TNR programs effectively manage feral cat populations by reducing reproduction while allowing cats to remain in their habitat. This approach balances animal welfare and community concerns. Option is incorrect. Euthanasia is not considered ethical for population control when humane alternatives exist. Option C. Incorrect. Relocation disrupts ecosystems and is often ineffective as feral cats may return or create issues elsewhere. Option D. Incorrect. Allowing unchecked population growth can lead to health and ecological issues. Relevant guidelines. Humane Society and local animal welfare organizations recommend TNR as the most effective and humane strategy for managing feral cat populations. Question 10. Public education and communication. During a community meeting, a resident asks why leash laws are strictly enforced. What is the most accurate explanation you should provide? A. Leash laws are intended to reduce the workload of animal control officers. B. They ensure public safety and prevent incidents involving uncontrolled animals. C. They allow better identification of stray animals in the community. D. Leash laws are required only for specific breeds deemed dangerous. Answer B. They ensure public safety and prevent incidents involving uncontrolled animals. Explanation. Option B. Correct. Leash laws protect the public by reducing the risk of bites, traffic accidents, and other incidents involving free-roaming animals. They also promote responsible pet ownership. Option was incorrect. While leash laws assist animal control officers, their primary purpose is public safety, not workload management. Option C. Incorrect. Identification is a secondary benefit but not the main purpose of leash laws. Option D. Incorrect. Leash laws typically apply to all breeds, not only those deemed dangerous. Relevant guidelines, local ordinances, and public safety regulations highlight leash laws as essential for preventing accidents and promoting harmonious coexistence between pets and the community. Question 11. Handling zoonotic disease risks. While inspecting a property, you encounter a raccoon behaving abnormally, such as being overly aggressive and disoriented. What is the most appropriate action to take? A. Capture the raccoon and release it in a rural area. B. Contact wildlife authorities and avoid direct contact with the raccoon. C. Attempt to rehabilitate the raccoon and return it to the wild. D. Ignore the raccoon as it poses no immediate threat. Answer: B. Contact wildlife authorities and avoid direct contact with the raccoon. Explanation: Option B correct. The raccoon's behavior may indicate rabies or another zoonotic disease which can be transmitted to humans and other animals. Reporting it to wildlife authorities ensures proper handling. Option incorrect. Relocating potentially diseased animal risks spreading the disease. Option C incorrect. Rehabilitation is not suitable for diseased or potentially dangerous wildlife. Option D incorrect. Ignoring the situation could lead to further risk to the community. Relevant guidelines. Public health protocols emphasize the importance of preventing zoonotic disease transmission through prompt reporting and professional intervention. Question 12. Animal cruelty investigations. A neighbor reports seeing a dog left outside without adequate shelter during extreme cold weather. Upon inspection, you confirm the dog is shivering and has no access to appropriate shelter or warmth. What is the best course of action? A. Issue a citation to the owner for animal cruelty and leave. B. Seize the dog immediately and transport it to a shelter. C. Provide temporary shelter for the dog and leave. A notice for the owner. D. Document the situation, educate the owner, and take further action if non-compliance continues. Answer: D. Document the situation, educate the owner, and take further action if non-compliance continues. Explanation: Option D correct. Education combined with documentation and follow-up promotes compliance while addressing immediate animal welfare needs. Option Q is incorrect. Issuing a citation without addressing the dog's immediate needs may not resolve the problem. Option B incorrect. Seizure is appropriate only if the animal is in imminent danger and the owner refuses to comply. Option C incorrect. Providing temporary shelter without ensuring long-term compliance is insufficient. Relevant guidelines. Many jurisdictions prioritize owner education and corrective action before resorting to enforcement measures. Question 13. Enforcement of licensing laws. During a routine patrol, you encounter a dog without an identification tag or visible license in a public park. What is the most appropriate action to take? A. Assume the dog is stray and take it to the local animal shelter. B. Attempt to locate the owner and issue a verbal warning. C. Impose a fine on the owner for failure to comply with licensing laws. D. Document the incident and take no further action. Answer: B. Attempt to locate the owner and issue a verbal warning. Explanation: Option B correct. Locating the owner and issuing a warning encourages compliance while avoiding unnecessary enforcement. Option incorrect. Taking the dog to a shelter prematurely may cause distress and unnecessary costs if the owner is nearby. Option C incorrect. Fining the owner may be disproportionate if this is the first violation and there is no immediate harm. Option D incorrect. Failing to act does not address the underlying issue of non-compliance. Relevant guidelines. Licensing laws aim to promote responsible ownership, with warnings or education often preferred for minor first-time infractions. Question 14. Transport and handling of injured animals. While on duty, you find a stray dog that has been hit by a car and is unable to move. What is the most appropriate way to handle this situation? A. Leave the dog in place and wait for the owner to claim it. B. Attempt to lift the dog without any additional equipment. C. Use proper handling techniques to safely transport the dog to a veterinary clinic. D. Call for assistance and wait before taking any action. Answer: C. Use proper handling techniques to safely transport the dog to a veterinary clinic. Explanation: Option C correct. Ensuring the dog's safety and minimizing further injury are priorities. Proper handling includes using blankets or stretchers to stabilize the dog. Option incorrect. Leaving the dog in place risks further harm from environmental or traffic hazards. Option B incorrect. Lifting an injured animal without support may exacerbate its injuries. Option D incorrect. Immediate action is necessary to provide the animal with medical care. Relevant guidelines. Emergency animal handling protocols prioritize safety, proper stabilization, and swift transport to veterinary facility. Question 15. Wildlife relocation ethics. A homeowner reports a family of raccoons living in their attic. What is the most appropriate response as an animal control officer? A. Trap and euthanize the raccoons to prevent property damage. B. Relocate the raccoons to a remote area away from human habitation. C. Educate the homeowner about wildlife proofing and humanely remove the raccoons. D. Ignore the report as raccoons are not a protected species. Answer: C. Educate the homeowner about wildlife proofing and humanely remove the raccoons. Explanation: Option C, correct. Humane removal, followed by educating the homeowner about prevention methods, ensures long-term resolution while adhering to ethical wildlife management practices. Option was incorrect. Euthanasia should not be the default solution when humane alternatives exist. Option B, incorrect. Relocation may disrupt ecosystems and is not always legal or effective. Option D, incorrect. Failing to address the issue could lead to safety concerns and further property damage. Relevant guidelines. Wildlife management emphasizes humane practices, education, and prevention to resolve conflicts with minimal harm to animals and ecosystems. Question 16. Addressing animal hoarding cases. You are called to investigate a report of animal hoarding. Upon arrival, you find 30 cats living in unsanitary conditions with visible signs of malnourishment and illness. What is the most appropriate course of action? A. Remove all the animals immediately and prosecute the owner. B. Provide the owner with a warning and allow them time to resolve the situation. C. Work with local shelters and agencies to develop a plan for removing and reharming the animals. D. Ignore the situation as the owner seems overwhelmed but means well. Answer. C. Work with local shelters and agencies to develop a plan for removing and reharming the animals. Explanation. Option C, correct. Collaborative efforts ensure the animal's welfare while addressing the situation in sustainable and ethical manner. Option incorrect. Immediate removal without plan may overwhelm shelters and further stress the animals. Option B, incorrect. Warning alone does not resolve the immediate welfare concerns. Option D, incorrect. Ignoring the issue endangers the animals and may violate animal welfare laws. Relevant guidelines. Effective intervention in hoarding cases involves collaboration, long-term planning, and legal compliance. Question 17. Dog bite incident response. A child is bitten by a dog at a public park. The owner claims the dog is up to date on vaccinations but cannot provide proof. What is the most appropriate response? A. Quarantine the dog and verify its vaccination records. B. Assume the owner is truthful and take no further action. C. Impound the dog immediately and vaccinate it. D. Euthanize the dog to prevent further incidents. Answer A. Quarantine the dog and verify its vaccination records. Explanation. Option is correct. Quarantining the dog ensures public safety while verifying the vaccination status. Option B, incorrect. Taking the owner's word without evidence poses public health risk. Option C, incorrect. Impoundment and vaccination may not be necessary if the dog is already vaccinated. Option D, incorrect. Euthanasia is an extreme measure not justified in this situation. Relevant guidelines. Public health laws require confirmation of vaccination records and appropriate quarantine for bite incidents. Question 18. Dealing with non-compliant owners, you encounter a dog roaming off-leash in a leash-required public park. The owner is present but refuses to leash the dog, claiming it is well-trained. What is the most appropriate course of action? A. Issue a warning and document the incident. B. Impound the dog for violating leash laws. C. Issue a citation to the owner for non-compliance. D. Allow the owner to continue as long as the dog behaves. Answer. C. Issue a citation to the owner for non-compliance. Explanation. Option C, correct. Enforcing leash laws ensures public safety and reinforces compliance. Option is incorrect. A warning may not be effective for a defiant owner. Option B, incorrect. Impoundment is unnecessary if the owner is present and can comply. Option D, incorrect. Allowing exceptions undermines the purpose of leash laws. Relevant guidelines. Leash laws prioritize safety for both animals and the public and must be consistently enforced. Question 19. Humane euthanasia decisions. An elderly dog brought to the shelter has severe injuries and a poor prognosis as confirmed by a veterinarian. The owner cannot afford treatment and is distraught. What is the most appropriate action? A. Provide the owner with financial assistance for treatment. B. Recommend humane euthanasia and offer emotional support to the owner. C. Refuse to euthanize the dog and advise the owner to seek alternative care. D. Euthanize the dog without discussing options with the owner. Answer. B. Recommend humane euthanasia and offer emotional support to the owner. Explanation. Option B, correct. Humane euthanasia prioritizes the dog's welfare and minimizes suffering, while emotional support helps the owner cope. Option incorrect. Financial assistance may not be sustainable or address the dog's suffering. Option C, incorrect. Refusing euthanasia may prolong the dog's pain. Option D, incorrect. Proceeding without discussion disregards the owner's emotional needs. Relevant guidelines, humane euthanasia decisions balance animal welfare, medical realities, and owner support. Question 20. Managing public concerns about wildlife. Residents report a coyote frequently seen near a schoolyard, raising safety concerns. The coyote appears healthy and non-aggressive. What is the most appropriate response? A. Capture and relocate the coyote immediately. B. Educate the community on coexistence and monitor the coyote's behavior. C. Euthanize the coyote to eliminate potential risks. D. Ignore the concerns as the coyote has not acted aggressively. Answer: B. Educate the community on coexistence and monitor the coyote's behavior. Explanation: Option B correct. Education promotes coexistence while monitoring ensures timely intervention if the coyote's behavior changes. Option incorrect. Relocation is not always effective and may disrupt ecosystems. Option C incorrect. Euthanasia is unjustified for healthy, non-aggressive animal. Option D incorrect. Ignoring the concerns fails to address public safety and education. Relevant guidelines. Wildlife management focuses on public safety, education, and minimal disruption to ecosystems. Question 20 on handling aggressive dog packs. You receive multiple complaints about a pack of stray dogs displaying aggressive behavior near a residential area. What is the most appropriate first step? A. Attempt to capture the dogs individually using standard traps. B. Coordinate with local animal welfare organizations to develop a plan. C. Approach the pack alone with a catch pole to assess their behavior. D. Notify the public to avoid the area and monitor the pack for a week. Answer: B. Coordinate with local animal welfare organizations to develop a plan. Explanation: Option B correct. Collaborating ensures adequate resources and expertise to safely address the situation. Option quiz incorrect. Capturing individual dogs without a broader strategy can be dangerous and ineffective. Option C incorrect. Approaching an aggressive pack alone is unsafe and may escalate the situation. Option D incorrect. While public safety is important, delaying action risks further incidents. Relevant guidelines. Effective control of aggressive dog packs requires collaboration and safety-focused planning. Question 22. Animal first aid in emergencies. You are called to a traffic accident involving a dog with visible injuries, including a fractured leg. The owner is unavailable. What is the best immediate action? A. Transport the dog to a veterinarian without any first aid. B. Immobilize the leg and provide basic first aid before transport. C. Wait for the owner to arrive before taking action. D. Euthanize the dog on site if it appears to be in pain. Answer: B. Immobilize the leg and provide basic first aid before transport. Explanation: Option B correct. Providing first aid stabilizes the animal and reduces further injury during transport. Option incorrect. Transporting without first aid risks exacerbating the injury. Option C incorrect. Delaying action neglects the animal's immediate needs. Option D incorrect. Euthanasia is inappropriate without veterinarian's assessment. Relevant guidelines. Animal control officers should provide basic first aid to stabilize injuries before seeking veterinary care. Question 23. Scenario: wildlife in a residential area. Mrs. Thompson contacts animal control about a raccoon repeatedly entering her backyard, which she fears may threaten her small dog. The raccoon does not display signs of aggression or illness. What is the most appropriate action? A. Trap and relocate the raccoon to a nearby forest. B. Advise Mrs. Thompson to remove food sources and secure trash bins. C. Euthanize the raccoon to prevent potential harm. D. Ignore the complaint as the raccoon is not aggressive. Answer: B. Advise Mrs. Thompson to remove food sources and secure trash bins. Explanation: Option B correct. Reducing attractants addresses the root cause of the behavior and promotes coexistence. Option incorrect. Relocation may disrupt ecosystems and is often illegal without proper permits. Option C incorrect. Euthanasia is unnecessary for a healthy, non-aggressive animal. Option D incorrect. Ignoring the issue does not alleviate Mrs. Thompson's concerns or address potential risks. Relevant guidelines. Wildlife management prioritizes reducing attractants and promoting coexistence. Question 24. Disease prevention in shelters. An animal shelter reports a sudden outbreak of canine parvovirus among the dogs. What is the most effective immediate response? A. Euthanize all infected dogs to prevent further spread. B. Quarantine the infected animals and thoroughly disinfect the facility. C. Move the healthy animals to a new facility while treating the infected ones. D. Vaccinate all animals in the shelter immediately. Answer: B. Quarantine the infected animals and thoroughly disinfect the facility. Explanation: Option B correct. Quarantining limits the spread and disinfection addresses contamination. Option will incorrect. Euthanasia should be a last resort, not an immediate response. Option C incorrect. Moving animals risks spreading the virus further. Option D incorrect. Vaccination during an outbreak is less effective for exposed animals. Relevant guidelines: effective disease control in shelters requires quarantine, sanitation, and veterinary care. Question 25. Legal considerations in enforcement. During a welfare check, you discover a pet owner keeping multiple exotic snakes without the required permits. What is the most appropriate course of action? A. Seize all the snakes and issue fines immediately. B. Educate the owner about permit requirements and allow time for compliance. C. Confiscate the snakes and report the owner to the appropriate authorities. D. Leave the snakes with the owner but document the violation for follow-up. Answer: C. Confiscate the snakes and report the owner to the appropriate authorities. Explanation: Option C correct. Confiscation ensures compliance with permit laws and prevents further legal violations. Option C incorrect. Immediate fines may not address the root issue of illegal possession. Option B incorrect. Education alone does not ensure compliance or public safety. Option D incorrect. Leaving the snakes risks further legal and safety violations. Relevant guidelines: enforcement of exotic animal laws protects public safety, animal welfare, and ecological balance. Question 26. Animal Control Officer Ethical Practices. An animal control officer receives a report of an abused dog in a home where the owner is known to be a relative. What is the most ethical course of action for the officer? A. Ignore the report to avoid family conflict. B. Investigate the situation thoroughly following all legal protocols. C. Tell the family that they should handle the situation themselves. D. Visit the family and give a warning without further action. Answer: B. Investigate the situation thoroughly following all legal protocols. Explanation: Option B correct. The officer has a duty to uphold the law and protect animal welfare regardless of familial relationships. Option C is incorrect. Ignoring the report violates ethical and legal responsibilities. Option C incorrect. Allowing the family to handle it themselves without intervention could lead to further harm to the animal. Option D incorrect. A warning alone does not address the potential harm or ensure the safety of the animal. Relevant guidelines: ethical responsibilities include impartial enforcement of animal welfare laws, regardless of personal relationships. Question 27. Public education on responsible pet ownership. You are tasked with delivering a community education session on responsible pet ownership. Which of the following topics should be prioritized? A. The legal implications of owning exotic pets. B. The financial cost of owning pets. C. Proper pet training and behavior management. D. The importance of pet insurance for health coverage. Answer: C. Proper pet training and behavior management. Explanation: Option C correct. Training and behavior management are critical to ensuring pets are well adjusted and safe within the community. Option C incorrect. While relevant, the legal implications of exotic pet ownership are too specific for a general community session. Option B incorrect. While important, financial cost is secondary compared to the well-being and management of pets. Option D incorrect. Pet insurance is useful but not as critical as proper care and behavior management in a community education setting. Relevant guidelines: public education programs should focus on practical issues like training, behavior, and pet care that impact both pets and the community. Question 28. Scenario: invasive species control. Mr. Harrison reports a large number of European rabbits in his garden, which are causing significant damage to his crops. What is the best course of action for the animal control officer to take? A. Trap and relocate the rabbits to a distant area. B. Advise Mr. Harrison to plant more durable crops. C. Set up traps to capture and humanely euthanize the rabbits. D. Suggest introducing natural predators to control the population. Answer: A. Trap and relocate the rabbits to a distant area. Explanation: Optional correct. Relocation is a humane solution, ensuring the rabbits are moved to an area where they are less likely to damage crops. Option B incorrect. Planting more durable crops does not solve the underlying issue of the invasive rabbit population. Option C, incorrect. Euthanizing the rabbits is unnecessary if humane relocation is an option. Option D, incorrect. Introducing predators can disrupt the local ecosystem and create further issues. Relevant guidelines. Humane wildlife management includes relocation strategies that do not negatively impact local ecosystems. Question 29. Shelter management during outbreaks. An animal shelter reports an outbreak of kennel cough among the dogs. What is the most effective response to prevent further spread? A. Quarantine the affected animals and continue normal operations for healthy animals. B. Close the shelter and relocate all animals to another facility. C. Isolate the infected dogs, increase cleaning protocols, and monitor the health of other animals. D. Wait for symptoms to subside before taking any action. Answer. C. Isolate the infected dogs, increase cleaning protocols, and monitor the health of other animals. Explanation. Option C, correct. Isolating infected animals and enhancing cleaning protocols are essential to controlling the spread of infectious diseases. Option was incorrect. Continuing operations as usual risks spreading the disease to healthy animals. Option B, incorrect. Closing the shelter is disruptive and unnecessary if proper isolation and hygiene are implemented. Option D, incorrect. Delaying action puts all animals at risk of infection. Relevant guidelines. Shelter disease control practices emphasize isolation, cleaning, and monitoring to prevent outbreaks. Question 30. Legal documentation and reporting. You receive a complaint about an owner keeping too many pets in an apartment with no visible signs of neglect or abuse. What should you do first in this situation? A. Issue a fine for excessive pet ownership. B. Interview the owner and document their living conditions. C. Immediately seize all pets to avoid overcrowding. D. Notify local authorities about the potential violation without intervention. Answer. B. Interview the owner and document their living conditions. Explanation. Option B, correct. Investigating and documenting the situation thoroughly is essential to determine if any laws are being violated. Option incorrect. Issuing a fine without a thorough investigation may not address the underlying issue. Option C, incorrect. Seizing the pets prematurely could be an overreach and unnecessary without clear evidence of harm. Option D, incorrect. Taking no action or notifying others without a full assessment delays proper resolution. Relevant guidelines. Proper documentation and investigation ensure that actions taken are legally sound and appropriate for the situation.